Hey friends, have you ever had such a crazy rat race of a day where you feel like you can't get through anything that you're supposed to and you're about ready to give up? That was my day almost every day this week, and then God showed me this amazing revelation that helped me get through it. I got up really early yesterday morning, got into my car, was driving really fast, missed the exit on the freeway, had to go back the other way, find the right route, and by the time I made it to the place I was supposed to be, which was like this conference with some friends, and at this retreat there was a guy named Bill. Bill from, I believe, California, born in San Francisco. So if you ever watch this, Bill, thanks for this nugget of information that completely changed my day yesterday. And Bill explained to us that in the Greek there are two words for time. One is chronos, which I think we get the word chronological from. It's I have to do these four things, the report is due, I chronologically go through my day. And then the other is Kairos. And they're two completely different ways of understanding time. And I don't know about you, but I live in the world of Chronos. I have time blocks on my calendar from 6 a.m. until 5 p.m. And then afterwards, it's like I have to pick up the kids, do piano lessons with them, do some reading, some writing, and then bedtime. It is packed. And sometimes I forget that I am a human being, not a human doing. I'm not here just to do a bunch of things and get them off my list. At the same time, we all have to get things done. But what's really interesting is Chronos creates a lot of anxiety because we are wired to live in Kairos. And Kairos is the way God experiences time. And because God is outside of time, his past, present, and future, it's like all one. And the great example Bill gave us was, Chronos is like, think of a river. It has a beginning and an end and sequences in the middle, but Chronos is more like a deep, still lake where you just are. And that's where God abides. And he gave this great example. Have you ever had a time where you're doing something that you love? Maybe you love fixing cars or painting or creating video content, I don't know, and you're in the garage. I have this really great friend who takes apart cars, he strips them all the way down and rebuilds them. And he tells me that when he's doing that work, he'll look up at the clock and go, whoa, I can't believe 8 hours have passed. Time seems to melt. Have you ever had something like that in your life? Where you're doing something you love so much that you start to experience time completely differently. You're not just experiencing time in the present, you're actually experiencing time like God's experiencing time. You're living in your past, you're pulling on your past experience. Let's say you're doing the car, you know some things that you've learned in the past, but you're also super focused in the present. You're doing what you love, and you're at the same time, you have this future vision in your mind. You are working towards the goal. The car will be restored. It's going to look like this. And your past experience, your present focus, and your future vision of what that car will be all meld together into one, and you stop tracking time. You just are. You're existing in a pure sense of joy and abundance. God lives in Kairos and operates in Kairos. And what that means is, just like the Psalm says, be still and know I'm God. What that means is in our Chronos, the daily crazy rat race, we have to pause and seek the God of Kairos. Kairos also means an inbreaking in time where God shows up and gives us revelation. That's where life comes from. Think about the greats. Moses went to the mountain and he spent time with God. Kairos. Jesus, although he had a lot of Chronos, he healed people and he evangelized and he went into towns and he had a ton of work for himself, but he would pause and say, now it's time to connect Kairos with the Father, and nobody is going to stop me. No busyness is going to stop me from connecting to God. And that's where he drew his strength. And so my friend Bill reminded me yesterday to find times of Kairos with God. God speaks in the quiet. He whispers in the in-between times when you least expect it. And so I just want to encourage you, if you have a crazy rat race schedule like most of us do as Americans, make sure to guard the time where you can speak to God. I want to encourage you, be on the lookout for where God's working. Sometimes in the least expected places, when you're running from meeting to meeting, that's where God is working. Sometimes he wants you to pause and pay attention to somebody in your office that needs a word of encouragement. Sometimes he wants you to cancel that meeting because somebody needs prayer and you go pray for that person. Sometimes you have your plans to go home after work, but then God pauses you and says, hey, I need you to help a colleague because they need to move or they need to be encouraged right now. There are these moments where God speaks, and sometimes we have to interrupt our chronos, our schedule, to allow the revelation of God to come into our lives. And that's where time stops, and that's where the magic happens. So for me, it was a reminder that in my busyness yesterday, God showed up and he calmed me down and said, I've got the world in my hands. It's under control. Why don't you pause and pray? So I encourage you, find a few minutes every day to stop the chronos, to connect with God through Kairos, through scripture, through prayer, and God is going to do some amazing things in your life. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Again, my name is Boris, and I post weekly videos to encourage you, to help you grow spiritually. So like this video and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next week.